Hey everyone, I am here with my client and friend, Josh Sommers. So welcome, Josh.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Josh, could you share with everyone where were you in your life and in your career before you met me, before you met Oculus, before you got involved with Awaken and deconditioning and all that kind of stuff? What was going on?
Well, I was in a managerial position, managing a software development team for the first time in my career. And just to make a long story short, I was not very happy. I was in a lot of physical pain. I was suffering through a lot of mental anguish, anxiety, depression, suicidal thinking. I felt like I did not want to be doing what I was doing, but I felt like I had no other options. And I didn't, this was the thing that I was best at, and I felt horrified about the prospect of doing it any longer. And I was pretty terrified. And I came upon your ad and reached out, and we had our initial conversation. And within a day or two of that conversation, I got fired for the first time in my entire career. I'd never been unemployed. I'd certainly never been fired. And in that moment, I took the chance and t took a step off the ledge and went with the Awaken program.
Mhm.
And it was kind of the first the first time that I had done something like that. It felt a little bit scary for me to jump into something with such a major commitment at such a scary moment in my life where I had been suddenly unemployed.
Had you ever worked with a coach before?
Not this type of coaching. I mean, I've had as a musician, I've had vocal coaches and I've had piano coaches and things like that, but I haven't had a personal coach and I haven't had in a business sense. And I guess maybe the only other closest thing to that would be therapy, that I had done years of therapy, talk therapy.
Mhm. So, how would you differentiate between the kind of work we did versus therapy? Because I know that's a question I get all the time.
Well, I will say that within the first couple of weeks of starting Awaken, I canceled therapy. I'd been doing it for 12 years, and suddenly it felt like it was not necessary. And the difference was, I would say it was more intense. Awaken, it forced me into some uncomfortable moments and to confront some pretty uncomfortable things that, my talk therapist probably never really made me feel uncomfortable in what she did, and I think probably it was necessary to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I've definitely I've found that's the case. There's a group of coaches that I'm affiliated with, and one thing that we say is that if it's not challenging, then we need to put more weight on the bar.
Yeah, it was certainly challenging. I faced a tremendous amount of internal resistance to every step of the process, really.
Okay, and so, but then on the other side, right? What did you get for the effort that you put in?
Well, everything is better. I would just suffice it to say, um, uh, it was it had been a very long time before I met you that I could even pretend to say that I was happy. And where I am today, I can easily say that I'm happy. I'm very content with my life. I'm very content with my job life balance, my work life balance. My income is fine. Is not tanked. It's right up there where it has always been. Um, I get to spend time with my dogs. I don't get stressed out if I'm overwhelmed or overworked. I can just take a break. If I need more money, I can work more. If I need less money, I can work less. I found that shortly after the program, I reawakened as an artist. I've been an artist my entire life, but in the 7 years probably preceding us meeting, it had just died for me. I was no longer inspired to create art. And within a couple of weeks after the course completed, I found myself suddenly finding new success as an artist, or initially reawakening as an artist and becoming prolific as an artist again. And then shortly after that, in the midst of the NFT craze, I was suddenly prepared for that at that moment and lucked into a collector and made a fair amount of money off of selling my art. And just the cycle continued, and I got more inspiration, felt more inspired in general, and I reawakened as a musician, a pianist, which had also been dormant for a number of years, further contributing to my misery, I think. And then I got into a whole new type of art, which was woodworking, and I started making cutting boards. And this, at this point, was now during the pandemic. And I quickly, really quickly, within really just a couple of months, turned that into a side business and people started banging down my door to buy cutting boards,
Well,
which is
didn't you
something I
have
never could have imagined myself doing just a couple of years prior.
didn't you have something with Guy Fieri? What was that story?
Yeah, I recently contributed a number of boards. I donated to the Guy Fieri. There was an auction for a fundraiser that he did for the chefs of Maui
Mhm.
after the fire disaster there, and then got kind of roped into assisting more with that and doing a bunch of laser engraving on a 160 pizza peels for all of the guests that were there. And that's through a friend that I made because of cutting boards. I met a fellow woodworker, and he happened to be an employee of Guy's, and um, that's how that went.
Cool. So you've got the cutting board business still active?
Yeah, absolutely. And every year around this time is the super busy time, getting close to Christmas, and I have I have a lot of work ahead of me in the coming months to build up my inventory for the holiday rush.
Cool, cool. And so then also you're still doing some of the technical work that you used to do in a freelance capacity at a lowered amount, a lowered hours.
Well, it's sort of, I think you would call it flex time. There's no actual limit to the number of hours I can work, and there's also no minimum expectation.
Okay.
So I work as much as I want to.
Okay.
And I'm primarily writing code and building websites and doing that kind of stuff in that capacity. And that is for a former employer of mine, but I'm operating as a freelancer.
So you've set up an arrangement with them then where you can work as little or as much as you want, and you can trade your time for money at whatever, amount that you want at a price that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, and it works out really well. This is the company that I was working at when I was headhunted for the management position, and so I've gone away from management. The
Mhm,
the Awaken course clarified that management wasn't necessarily the right place for me,
mhm.
and I believe that to be true. And at that time, I was horrified at the prospect of going back to being a developer, like that I was taking a step down from being a manager. That somehow made me lesser. But the truth is that it's a much more creative and enjoyable uh, task than management. And as a creative, it fits my personality much better.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing I'm hearing a lot of this as a theme is like, what is the right fit for me? Not what should I do, not what am I told is the right thing to do, not what is the, status thing to do, but like what actually makes you as an individual and as a creator happy.
Yeah, exactly. And that thought never crossed my mind throughout my entire career.
Never crossed your mind. Wow.
No, I mean, I just was, how do I make money? How do I get a career that's stable and um, yeah, I mean, I think psychologically from the time that I was a small child, I just had this idea that the goal in life is to make as much money as possible. And I just somewhere along the line thought, well, hey, software developers make good money, so that's what I did.
Yep.
It turned out that that was okay. That wasn't a terrible choice for me. Um, But then listening to the notion of like what society says or what peers say in terms of, well, hey man, you've been a developer for too long. Shouldn't you be a manager by now? What is that? What negative things does that say about you that you're still a developer? And so I kind of felt this pressure to move into management. And it's not that I was horrible at it. Um, I felt like I took great care of my team, and my developer team respected me because I had street cred, but I was not very good at being a company man. And I put their needs ahead of the company, and that was not always appreciated by the company.
Okay. So where are you now, when we look at all the external stuff, right? A lot has changed externally. Where are you internally? Like what is your experience of life and where are you psychologically?
I'm just far more peaceful in
Hmm.
general. I don't worry about much. It's just worry, fear, anxiety, depression. None of those things are constants in my life anymore, and they were constants for most of my life before that.
Yep.
I feel a general sense of calm and confidence that whatever struggles I do encounter, I'm armed with the tools to get through it.
Yep. And how has that affected other areas of your life? Right? Has that affected your health? Has that affected your relationships? How has that spread to other areas of your life?
Well, my relationships were all doing pretty good to begin with, and so I don't know that they have necessarily, by and large, changed that much.
Mhm.
But um, people, my friends, my family, my wife, they all noticed a stark change in me. That my mood is just better in general, and I'm more laugh more and more affable and just not so stressed out and grumpy all the time.
Yep.
And I just feel, I feel a sense of fulfillment in my life now that I never really felt because I feel like I'm in control of the situation and I'm not just doing what I have to do to
Yep.
survive and pay bills. And I also uh, I feel less needy or less wanty. Like I always had this sense like more and more, I need more. I need to make more money so I can have a bigger house or a better car or whatever. And none of that really matters to me anymore. I'm really content with the status quo, so to speak. That I just that everything is so much better now than it was before that it's hard for me to think that I need something else or that I want for anything.
Yep. And it's not that you've, reduced your lifestyle. I mean, your income, as you said, is basically the same high level it's always been, if I'm understanding
Yeah,
correctly.
did not reduce my income, didn't lose my house, didn't have to start eating at McDonald's, everything. And even through the pandemic, like the one thing that I didn't really mention is that like my time in Awaken ended like the week before the pandemic started.
Yep.
And so it was like it's kind of out of the fire into the frying pan situation. But
Hmm.
even despite that incredibly difficult transition from Awaken, and an inability to jump right back into the workforce at that point, it was actually a real great benefit. I think that I had that year to really soak in everything I had learned in Awaken and gradually put it into practice. And I think that was an incredible opportunity and just the kismet, the timing of that. And I think that was significant in my ability to absorb everything in eventually.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Is it anything else that you'd like to share? Anything that I haven't asked?
I think that covers everything. You know, I would express gratitude for everything that I learned from you, and I am thankful that our paths crossed because it was a life-changing experience. As hard as it was, and I really was hard. Well, you know how much I struggled through the process, and I had a lot of issues I didn't even realize I had, a lot of struggles that I didn't even they were so deep down I didn't know that I was having them. And so bringing those to the surface is certainly not fun, but it was definitely effective.
Yeah. I often tell people, I'm never going to promise that this is going to be quick. I'm never going to promise that this is going to be easy, but I can promise it will be worth it.
And I think you've also said that it's simple, not easy.
Yeah, well, it's simple when you have someone to explain it to you, right? Like, it's like, okay, do this process A, B, C, D, right? Those processes aren't taught in society, right? Like a lot of stuff I taught you deconditioning that is nowhere to be found in schools or culture or whatever, right? It's not the kind of thing that's, I mean, even in therapy, right? It's just not really present. And there are people out there who have that level of deep expertise, but you've got to find people who really have committed to a lot of study and have kind of gone off the beaten path. And then you can see it, right? You can see it in the results and in people's experiences like yours.
Absolutely.
So,
And I didn't know whether or not whether or not I believed that I could have this kind of result. When it came to our initial talk, there was a lot of skepticism from me that this was a program that would work for me, would work for anyone, who knows. But certainly one by going through it, it's hard for me to argue any of the results.
I appreciate that. And you do speak to something that I hear a lot, right? I hear a lot from people who are on that side of the fence before they've made a commitment. They're like, whoa, like, is this even possible? Is this a scam? Like, people make all kinds of promises. How do I know this and that? Or, oh, I'm sure it's great because I saw the testimonials, but would it work for me? Like that's another one that I get a lot. But, the beauty of it is that the process is universal. It's a reliable, repeatable process assuming that somebody does work, right? That's the hard part because it is not easy. It is not easy, but it's definitely worth it.
And when I started, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't, I think there were times when you may have asked, or even maybe my therapist in the past had asked me to visualize the future that I wished I had. And I couldn't. I just couldn't even do it. When I tried to visualize my future at that point, all I saw was death.
Wow, that's a strong statement. But I mean, I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're no longer there.
Right. No, I mean, and it's true. And I mean, and like that is kind of a lot of what anxiety is, that things often boil down to death that really won't boil down to death in your mind. But really, that like I think that's important too, is to state is that I even as a creative individual couldn't imagine a life in which I could be happy.
Well, I'm glad that you're living it now, man.
I am, and so am I.
That's what life's here for. It's not for us to grind out miserably until the end. It's not there for us to, toil ourselves to the bone for a couple years of semi-happiness and retirement where people often don't even know what to do because they've never really thought about it.
Right.
It's here to be lived fully, every year. And I really, it's something I believe deep in my bones.
And you convinced me of that as much too. I absolutely felt that I every day was looking forward to retiring, which was still a very long way away for me. And now I don't even think about that. I mean, sure, I have to think about the future, but I'm not counting the days or the hours. I don't find myself waiting for the weekend, working for the weekend, as they say, right? I mean, there have been a couple of times in the last couple of years where I get up and have my coffee and go turn the computer on and start writing code and hop onto the morning meeting only to realize it's Saturday and we don't work on Saturday. Like that absolutely would never have happened in the past because I was so desperate to get to Saturday so that I could let go and stop thinking about work. And I
Obviously, but
just
the
don't.
trade-off of being desperate to get to Saturday is also then Sunday, you're dreading Monday.
Right. And I don't do that game anymore either. Like every day of the week is the same to me now. And it's fine. Like, oh, I work today. Okay, whatever. If I don't feel like it, then I won't, so it's just I think I've said it all. It's just, it's a very balanced new life that I have.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for jumping on and sharing. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Totally happy to do so.
Have a good one. Cheers,
Thanks.
everyone. Bye.